What's up, guys? So today's video, just wanted to talk about my life experience and kind of where I ended up in life and how I got here. It's a pretty interesting story, I would say. I guess to level set, I am a 31-year-old male, and I went to college, went the kind of the traditional route. But that really wasn't the case all along. As I was growing up and I made it to high school, I never thought that I would kind of take this traditional route. My original plan, going to high school by my senior year, I was thinking about going into the Navy. And I really didn't have an idea what I wanted to do. I didn't really think that college was going to be the route that I was going to go down. But I ended up doing that, right? And sometimes life changes, and we'll talk about this later on, but I think it was for the best. I didn't really do that good in high school. I really didn't care too much about academics. I was too busy partying, making friends, getting in trouble, doing things that you typically would do as a, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid in high school. So by the time I graduated, I thought I was going to be going into the Navy, but took some turns and ended up not going that route. Took some time off after high school, worked a couple dead-end jobs, worked at a gym for a little bit, and then ended up doing some contract work for a tree service company. And all of these experiences, just to say here, all these experiences led me to where I am today, because it made me realize that that's not where I wanted to be in life. That's not what I wanted to settle for. I realized that these jobs were not something that was something I could see myself doing for my entire life. And even prior to high school, right? I was always a kid that was ambitious. I had started a YouTube channel way back in 2007 and 8, and I was one of the first people in the partner program back then. Long story short on that is my YouTube channel at the time ended up getting suspended because I was using some marketing software at the time to kind of automate my channel growth, and that was obviously against the community guidelines. So ended up kind of falling off of YouTube for a little bit, but YouTube has always been something that I was genuinely interested in. I like making videos. I'm a very creative person, I would say. And that's something that's kind of been with me my entire life. I've always been into photography, video, and just kind of, voicing myself through that kind of medium, I guess. Going back to high school, and kind of where we left off about that. So I ended up leaving high school, worked a couple dead-end jobs, like I had said, and then eventually I started to kind of figure out more of my passion, kind of what I wanted to do. So while I was working in the tree service, I was going for my personal training certification. So I was always looking for my next move. And I think that's something that you'll see persistent throughout this video is I've always been looking for the next move. What's my next thing after I'm done this, right? Always looking to the future. I'm always forward looking with everything. So then I was in the tree service, and I was studying and doing everything to get myself prepared to be a personal trainer. And in that time period as well, I was applying to different gyms, trying to get a job in the gym setting. And at the time, I knew some people in the industry already that connected me with some other people that led me to a job at a gym once that contract work was up. So I ended up getting a job in the gym, and that's kind of how I started to, well, let me just say here, I didn't end up doing personal training at that gym. I ended up liking the sales side of it a little bit better. I've always grown up and I've been a pretty outgoing, definitely a little introverted, but also very extroverted at times. So I do enjoy using my social battery per se, I guess, right? And kind of draining my social battery, but then going home and kind of recharging it. And, I like being by myself sometimes. I think everybody can say that. So then ended up at the gym doing sales. Didn't end up doing the personal training right off the bat. And I enjoyed working at that gym for the period that I did work there. And then, after that, I was thinking like, okay, my father and my brother were in the union. And that was always something I had, I guess, in my back pocket. My dad had always told me that if I did want to join the union, that was always an option. I could always make some good money. I would have a good retirement. I would have some good health insurance. And that was kind of like always the backup plan. Like I always had that option. My dad always told me though, and I'll never forget this, he wanted to see me do better than him. He didn't want to see me go down the same route that he did. And he did like his job. He was proud of his work that he did. But he wanted to see me as his son do better. As I think most parents do of their kids, they want to see them do better than them. And I always thought about that. And at the time, I was making okay money. And I had made a really dumb move at that time. But I think as I look back on it now, it was actually a pretty good decision because it kind of forced me to make more money and kind of get out of my comfort zone in that respect. So I worked at the gym for a little bit, did the sales, met some really awesome people, had a good experience, and learned some good valuable skills, like learned how to interact with people, learned how to negotiate, learned how to present sales pitches to people. So a lot of good came out of that job. All the jobs I've done, something has positively come out of it. I think everybody can say that. So during that time, I had been looking for my next move. Like I've been talking about through this video, like what's my next move? And I was like, you know what? Let me try the union. Worst case scenario is I don't like it, and I look for my next move after that. I can always go back to college. I could always, maybe even go that military route that I was talking about. So there was always the possibility of me shifting directions because I lived at home. I didn't have a lot of expenses, and I had that kind of leeway on my side. So lo and behold, I was working one day and I had let my boss know that, hey, listen, I just got the call from the hall that they are accepting me into the union, and I guess I should have given my 2 weeks, but I didn't, and that was probably a bad move at the time. You're always supposed to give your 2 weeks, but I didn't. But ended up making a pretty big pivot there. And that really led me into my next voyage. And I think at the time I was 20 years old, so still fairly young, had just graduated. I graduated when I was 19. I was a little bit older for my grade because I had been held back because of just the way my birthday was. I missed the cutoff. So by the age of 20, I was working in the union, and I could have worked in the union for the rest of my life, retired, had a great pension, had a great annuity, great health benefits, all the stuff that comes with a job in the union, kind of like the golden handcuffs, right? Yeah, so now we're in the union, right? I'm working. It's doing glass work. It's called glazing. Local 1044 glass union, carpentry glass. And you know, the first couple of months, I had taken a job with. There's some geese over here. This is funny. I had taken a job. See the geese over there. I'm gonna be walking by. Hopefully they don't attack me. But I had taken a job with a firm called Modern Glass, and they were a pretty big firm, or a pretty big company, I should say. And I was essentially a driver for them to start off. I was in the apprenticeship program. I was going to school at night to become a journeyman and to kind of build my skill set in the trades business, if you guys are familiar with that. Thing's pissed. Jesus, oh my God. They just flew past me. That was hilarious. Okay, so it scared me for a second. Build my skill set up in the trades, and you know, really just earning my sheriff stripes, I guess you could say, right? Or earning my sergeant stripes. And I was working that job, and I had to drive. Oh my God, it was like a 2-hour drive every day to the shop that I had to go to. And at the time, going back to the story about, sorry, just have to go back a step. I forgot to mention this point, where I was working at the gym and I was doing the sales. I had made a dumb move, right? And I forgot to tell you guys about that. I had made a pretty dumb move, but in hindsight, it was actually a good move for me. I had bought a used BMW 328i at the time, and it's still the same car that I'm driving today, and I love it. But I bought that car at 20 years old. I'm 31 today. It's 11 years I've had that car, and it's a 2011 BMW. So at the time when I bought it, I think it was like 3 or 4 years old, the car. And I bought it with like 26,000 miles on it, I think it was. But what happened was, I could afford the car, but I really couldn't afford the car. It was pretty expensive. I think I was paying $365 a month at the time. And my sales job, I had a base pay. I forgot exactly what it was. It might have been $250 every 2 weeks, or I'm sorry, $250 a week, so $500 every 2 weeks, and then I earned a commission on top of that. So yeah, obviously I lived at home at the time, but what I'm trying to get to here, the point was, it kind of forced me to take my next move, because I wasn't making that much money, and I had this car payment now. So I was spending a lot of money on that car payment, and obviously, you know, the other expenses and bills that I have at the time as I'm kind of growing up and becoming a man. So went to the union, and you know, I was working at Modern Glass, like I was telling you, and it was, you know, it was a tough drive. It was like a 2-hour drive each way, and I had to get up really early in the morning to drive down there. And like I said, I was a driver for them. So I would go there, I'd leave my car, I'd take the truck, drive into the city, deliver the glass that would need to be delivered, or deliver the panels, or whatever what we had to do for the day had to be delivered. So I did that for the first couple of months of my endeavor with the union, I should say, not my career. It didn't end up being a career for me, but in my endeavor with the union and exploring my options. And what ended up happening was, is I got laid off during that period, and that really kind of opened me up to realizing that nothing is guaranteed, and that I was just really a number. And as somebody who realizes that, my dad had always told me that there is obviously a good chance of getting laid off when you're in the union, and that means you have no work for an extended period of time. And that unknown was partially the reason why I ended up not going and staying with the union and kind of moving on. But it was also because I didn't really enjoy the work I was doing. I didn't find it fulfilling, right? So I came from a background of being in the gym setting and being a creative and making videos, to going to putting or making deliveries to job sites for materials and stuff, and just driving around, and there really was no skill set I was building with that. But I was in the apprenticeship program, so there was skills I was building outside of my day-to-day work, as a driver for this company called Modern Glass. So ended up getting laid off, and we moved on. I was laid off for a couple months of time, and then I ended up taking a job with my dad's company at the time, and I worked with him for a little bit, maybe 6 months or so. My total stint in the union was maybe about a year, maybe a little less than a year. So ended up doing that and working with my dad, and that's where I kind of got more of that hands-on experience in the trades, where I was, kind of working with him side by side, him kind of teaching me the ropes and the things that I needed to be successful as a glass worker in the union. And I learned a lot of really nice, valuable things from that, but it also, at the time, as I was in that in-between period where I was laid off, I was exploring my next option, right? What was my next move? That's been the theme throughout this video, right? Like, what is my next move from here? So I was looking into community colleges and going back to school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know that I didn't see myself working in the union for the rest of my life. I saw it as a stepping stone to my next thing, a way for me to earn an income that was at the time really good for a 20 to 21 year old. I think I had turned 21 before I had left the union. And I was making really good money. I think I was making like $500-600 a week. I mean, at the time, that was good money for me. It was a lot more than I was making in my sales job. And yeah, so in that period, I had started to get my feet wet with college and to sign up for some classes, community college, just to kind of get a feel for it and to see what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So by the tail end of my endeavor with the union, I was still working in the union, but I was also pursuing that next thing, which was college. And I'll never forget, there was a time that me and my dad were sitting on lunch break. And mind you, when you're working in the union, you're not sitting at like a lunch table, and you're not eating anything really glamorous. It's more or less like you're packing a lunch for the day, and you're sitting on a sheetrock bucket with a bunch of other guys. And one of the guys had said, "Oh, is this your son?" My dad says, "Yeah, it's my son." Like, "Oh, awesome, he's new to the trades, blah, 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 blah." They were just talking. And my dad was like, "Yeah, I know, he's not going to do this for the rest of his life. He's going back to school." And I'll never forget, the guy said, he's like, "I wish I had gone back to school, and I wish I didn't stay in the trades my entire life." So I got some unique perspectives from some of the older guys there. And that was kind of a common theme. Like, a lot of the guys that I had interacted with that were older, more like the dinosaurs of that field, were miserable, weren't happy, and wished they had done something else with their life. And that stuck with me. I didn't want to be my dad's age and regret where I was at and regret staying in a job that I wasn't fulfilled with. So a combination of different things had led me out of that. I just found somebody's keys on the ground. I'm going to hold them just in case somebody walks through it, can maybe give it to them. Anyways, where was I? So, working with my dad and, seeing what he went through every day, seeing the struggles that he went through in terms of like just providing for our family and going into the city every day, driving into the city and it was just a very stressful and unfulfilling job that I didn't see myself in for a long period of time. It was more of a short-term thing to kind of test the waters and see how I would like it. And I obviously did not like it. So we ended up going back to school. I went back to college. I got my associate's degree in business administration. And now this leads me to my next job. So after leaving the union, I obviously needed a job that I could still work as I went to school. So I needed something part-time. So I did school part-time, and I worked almost full-time. I was working like 35, maybe 38 hours a week, right below full-time. And I had worked at a restaurant as a hostess. And that was kind of just filling the void. And after I quit my job in the union, me and my friends at the time, we just turned 21, we had taken a trip to Vegas. And that was a good way for me to kind of reset, clean slate, come back from that trip and just start hammering. Start just going on to the next thing, start moving forward. And that was great for me. We went to Vegas, had a great time. I ended up winning almost $1,000, I think. It paid for my flight and most of my hotel expense for that weekend. So had a great kickoff to my new endeavor, and came back fresh and, with a fresh mind and a fresh outlook and new goals to set, which was great for me. I needed that. I needed a change. I wasn't happy, and I ended up, starting school, did the hostess job. But in that time frame, going back to the gym, there was a new gym that had opened up in the area, and I had applied there as a salesperson because, as you know, I've had this sales experience now. So I ended up working there in sales. I ended up getting the job and made some really good connections, and that was a good step for me, because at that time I had started up another YouTube channel. I started up a fitness YouTube channel. I needed something to keep me motivated and active while I was in school. And I've always, like I said, loved creating YouTube videos. And I had some connections in the fitness industry, a couple of YouTubers that are currently still around. So I was able to collaborate with them and make videos and kind of build my channel up. And I think at my peak I had amassed roughly like 5,000 subscribers before I deleted the channel, just because I ended up going to college and getting the job that I'm currently in, so I wasn't making those videos anymore, and it just wasn't something that I was that passionate about after the fact. But it was a good way for me, it was a good outlet for me at the time. So ended up quitting the job. Well, actually I worked 2 jobs initially. I had worked as the hostess and at the gym. As the gym was ramping up, they were giving me more hours, so that led me to leaving my job as the hostess, and we're just working at the gym, and I was running the sales department for them at the time, part-time, while I was in college. And that was kind of in the transition from me going from my associates to my bachelor's. There was a good program where basically it's called the associates to bachelor's program, where you could transfer all your credits over. and everything would be transferable to a state school. So any state school I wanted to go to, I could transfer my credits and they would apply. And I would be good to go. So I'd have the credits I needed to get my bachelor's degree. So I was doing that. I worked at the gym after school, and they were pretty flexible with my schedule. As long as I was making my sales and making sure the gym was running and everything was going good, then the owner was pretty flexible with me on that. But I ended up getting into powerlifting, and I ended up training clients at that gym as well. I ended up having, 2 or 3 clients that I would train for powerlifting out of that gym. So I ended up using the personal training experience that I had built up when I was in the tree service company, if you've been following along. And that was great. So, that work that I put in for the personal training certification actually came to use later on in my life. So all these things are just accumulation of life experiences that lead you to the next thing, right? So I guess the theme for this video is, what's the next move for me or for you? So worked at the gym. I think I worked there for 2.5, almost 3 years before I started to have to get my own insurance plan. And as you grow up, you turn 26, you're like, oh, I need insurance, so I need a job that provides insurance. So I was always looking for the next move. That's the theme of this video, right? So while I was working at that gym, I was looking for my next move. I knew I was going to need health insurance. I knew I was going to need to kind of step up to the plate and be a grown adult and start to pay my own insurance. I wasn't on my parents anymore. Starting to move on, right? Starting to move to that next stage of life. So I was wrapping up my bachelor's degree, and I had applied to Apple to be a sales associate there, building on that sales experience I've been building on my entire life, right? Or from the beginning of my endeavors of life into adulthood. So I ended up getting a job at Apple, and that was a very hard job to get. I had to go through 4 or 5 interviews, I think, and they vet you very well. They want to know you have specific skills, specific personality, you're passionate about other things besides just your job. So that was, I got some tips from people on how to go through that interview process and to nail it. So that was something that I had to kind of study for and work towards. And got the job at Apple, and I was working for a little bit of time. I was working at the gym and at Apple, similar to how I was working as a hostess and working at the gym, similar situation. And then I ended up just working part-time, 38 hours roughly, I think it was between 35 and 38 a week at Apple, and wrapping up my bachelor's degree. And at that time, I was a junior in my bachelor's program, becoming a senior, and that led me into my internship, where I got an internship at Fidelity Investments while I was working at Apple. And they were pretty flexible with me as well with this job. They allowed me to work my internship in that summer, and they were pretty flexible with me in my hours, so I adjusted them accordingly to make sure that I could fulfill the requirements for the internship, which was like a Monday through Friday, your typical 8 to 5, 9 to 5 type job. And I had a great experience at Fidelity. I learned a lot, and that was a good stepping stone for me. And mind you, I did have a prior internship as well during my sophomore year. It was an unpaid internship at a firm that was called Wall Street Horizon. So that was all during my my stint at the gym. So ended up having that internship while I was at the gym, and then when I moved on to Apple, I had the internship at Fidelity. And after Fidelity, we had a good resume built up. I had some good experience. I had worked really hard to get to where I was at that point, and I knew I had worked really hard. My effort and everything I'd put into getting my bachelor's degree, acquiring new skills, you started to reap the benefits. I started to reap the benefits of that. So building my resume up was critical to get to where I'm at right now. In lifetime, sometimes life takes twists and turns, right? It's not always glamorous. It's not always good every single time, right? And part of that was like the pandemic had hit in 2020. And there was a lot of unknowns with that, with not just job unknowns, but also like health unknowns, health concerns with people. There was a lot of serious things that were going on at that time. And in hindsight, or in 2025 now, it's 5 years ago, it just seems like it's a blip on the radar. And it's crazy just how fast life starts to move as you get older. So I had by my senior year, my goal was really to land a full-time position, land a full-time job, and this was in 2019, leading into 2020, my senior year. In October of 2019, there were some job postings on Indeed that advertised a technology development program. I've always been into technology. My first YouTube channel I had mentioned at the beginning of this video was actually a technology-based YouTube review channel. I was one of the first people on YouTube to start to do unboxing type videos. And I got a lot of crap for that. I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of people making fun of me because there was nobody doing that at the time. And now looking back, unboxing videos are super popular by YouTubers in the technology space. So it's just an interesting perspective there. If you ever think that what you're doing is dumb or people make fun of you, there's a lot of situations where people that get made fun of or get laughed at or, told it's never going to work out, it ends up being one of the best decisions they ever made. Anyways, I've always been into technology, and I went to school. I got my bachelor's in information technology and marketing analytics, and my associate's was in business administration. So I had a unique combination, a unique blend of business acumen, technology, sales, and just a very personable person. Can have a conversation with pretty much anybody. I get along with pretty much anybody. I'm a respectful person, and that really showed on my resume. So they had this technology development program I applied for, had their interview with the recruiter, and out of all the people that applied for the position, they only took on 2 people. And one of the kids I had worked with at Fidelity applied for this same program that I did. He went through the whole interview process, didn't end up getting the job, and there was 2 of us that did. So I feel very fortunate and lucky that I was able to land the job, which has brought me to where I'm at today as a senior analyst at one of the big banks in America. Very fortunate to be able to say that. I know it's a privilege, not a right, and something that can be taken away from me at any point in time. I'm making good money. I had bought my condo in 2020, kind of right at the end of February, right before the pandemic hit. It just seems like all my ducks have aligned in a row throughout my life, and I've been super fortunate and lucky, but I've also put in a lot of hard work and effort to get to where I'm at. So it's a combination of a multitude of different things that have got to me where I'm at. I know people that are not as lucky as me. One of my best friends has some of the worst luck I have ever seen in my life. He can't win. He just strikes out all the time with various different things, whether it be girlfriends, jobs, school, never finished college, has had a lot of bad relationships that have gone south on him. He's gotten laid off from his job. He has a bunch of health issues. He's had multiple cars. One of them got stolen. One that he ended up crashing because he hit black ice. I could laundry list of items. That's just the tip of the iceberg right there. But he just doesn't have good luck in life. And I don't know what it is, but I've been very fortunate in my life to have very good luck, very level-headed, and I've set myself up to have a great life and to be where I'm at right now. So sometimes life takes twists and turns, but you just got to keep going and you got to keep looking for that next move. If you take one thing out of this video, is always be looking to take your next move. So that brings us to current day. Right now, 2025, where I'm at. I'm wrapping up my master's degree in applied data analytics. Not as something that I needed to do for my job, but as something that I wanted to do. Definitely helped propel me to my current role as a senior data analyst, like I said, at one of the big banks. But it wasn't something necessarily I needed to do. But I've always been looking for the next move. So as I'm wrapping up my master's degree next month, or the end of this month, I'm going to be graduating next month, I'm thinking, what is my next move here? Where do I go next? Where do I pivot to? I need to have structure, and I need to have a goal that I'm working towards in my life. I'm just that type of person. I'm a type A person. I know what I need. I know what I need to do. I know I need to work for something. So this is where I'm at this point now, where I've been starting up this YouTube channel. And I think it's time for me to get back into making videos again, because I know it's something that I enjoy. But I also know that I need to look for other things as well, like other things that I'm missing in my life. What is my next move? I know that I've been out of the dating scene for a little bit because I had some pretty bad experiences with dating, especially with the dating apps and just the whole dating culture in 2025, and really it's just a lot different than it was back when I was in high school and even in my early 20s. Just with social media and dating apps, and everybody just shows the highlight reel of things. Nobody shows the bad. So everybody wants a guy that makes six figures, that's, has his whole life put together, is 7 feet tall, has multiple houses, has boats, has Lamborghinis, yachts, all that stuff, right? And that's a very small portion of the population. I make good money. I think for my age, I'm in a good spot. I'm well off financially. Have my investments. Have my condo. And on paper, it looks like I have everything together. And I pretty much do. But at the same time, I just can't seem to find that person in my life that would complement me. Just between the dating apps, I just haven't had good luck in that realm. I've had pretty much good luck and good success in every other facet of my life, I could say. But for some reason, in the dating space or in the dating realm, I just haven't had that luck. And you know what? Everybody has issues and problems in some facet of their life. And for me, that's where I'm having my issues. So to kind of move away from thinking that I need to solely be on dating apps to get, a date or a relationship with somebody, I think is false. So I have deleted the dating apps, and I'm focusing on more of like the in-person, talking in person type of conversations with people. I feel as though it's too easy on dating apps to be labeled something, or to be filtered out of different criteria based on your race, your age, your height, all these criteria, right? Whereas if you're in person, you can show some personality, like how you are as a person. How do you treat other people? Do you have charisma? Are you likable? All these other things that you don't get with talking with somebody over a screen or a computer. So I'm looking for my next move, guys. And that's what this theme of this video is just keep on moving on. Keep on keeping on, right? Stay level-headed. Stay in good spirits. Always be looking for the next thing. And at least in my experience, that has worked out pretty well for me. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, a little talk about my life and how, I've got to where I'm at today. Be sure to, leave a comment down below. Be curious to hear about maybe some of your experiences and what you've gone through. And like the video if you like it. And that's about it. We'll see you guys in the next one.